So I would like to now invite Jayant Kumar, who is Senior Director from GUS.
Good evening. So I'm the last person between you and the end of the ceremony for the day. So that's not a good thing, and that's not a good place to be in. So I'll try to be as quick as I can. And I'm the only, I guess, I would say, the foreign speaker based on United States in GE. And I have been invited to share a bit foreign perspective, in this case, US perspective. And I must say, I learned a lot today. I do not come that often, so I'm not that much familiar. So it was a great education session for me. So really thank you for all that. And great comments and great points made. And I must say that I would like to use my next 3 minutes maybe to give my perspective with respect to some of the comments that I heard. So that might be even more conducive or maybe more productive the way I see it, rather than giving you a plain isolated perspective, what I see and what we are doing over there. So just a quick introduction. My name is Jayant Kumar by background. As our professor from VJTI said, I'm not from IIT. I did my BTech from VIT, and I'm doing the good work. And after going to US, I did my master's and PhD, and I must say that that was in 92. And so I must say that when I did PhD, I did my PhD with PhD major in electrical power engineering, and then I also did my PhD minor in computer science and economics. Now, some of the discussions that you heard, and so let me kind of use my introduction also a little bit with respect to the comments, that Industry 4.0, if you really want to highlight the characteristics, or what are the key elements that makes it different from the other revolutions, if I have to pick 3-4 key points, I would say, first of all, it's really asking for a systems engineering, if you really look at it from the engineer's perspective, right? Because you're really talking about not a component engineering, rather how are you going to be looking at building systems? And that's what this is about. So that's one key characteristic, right? The second characteristic is that the volume of data that you need to deal with, and I would put volume of data a bit more emphasis on rather than the AI itself. I guess some of the professor mentioned before that when you talk about AI, it's not new. It started in 80s, right? And as a matter of fact, my master's thesis was on artificial neural network, and that was in 92. So it's not new. It's just that the enablement of the computer power and the data management and so on that has given rise to it. The other element I would like to really highlight is that when you really look at Industry 4.0, and I guess great comments made, you really need to look at what's the maturity level our country, India, is here for that matter, right? And then you really need to look at the baseline, and then you need to go from there. And the reason why that is really, really important, because you need to really calibrate what's the starting point, and then go from there. And having said that, I must say that a lot of talks that I heard and comments that I heard, of course, the problem is pretty fragmented, complex, overarching. So you have to really look at that, how you are going to be painting the elephant here. And so you need to be very careful about where you start and how do you go about it. So my comment would be, some of the comments and the discussions were highly aspirational, and that's a good thing. That should be the case. But at the same time, I think a mass problem I think the country faces is how do you create the mass skill development? And the mass skill development is a little different class of a problem, as opposed to really getting highly aspirational that how everybody need to know every nuts and bolts of the Industry 4.0. And so if you really look at from that perspective, then if you can really moderate your thinking and your approach that you had presented, that will go a long ways. And the reason I mention, because this is exactly what I would present from the US perspective, that while a lot of key invention and other things have happened in the US. But the country is unique in the sense that how they really looked at, they fill the pipe of the skill development at the mass level. And there, mass is not that big mass as we have over here, and they have done a great job. And so in that case, what I would like to really mention and I'd like to suggest to you, that we all have been talking about future. I would say roll back, look at the history. That would be my perspective to you. Look at the history of last 40 years, for that matter, in the energy industry, as our colleague from ABB said. And Professor Chandan, ABB is a great company. General Electric is too. So just wanted to make sure that I don't miss that point. And having said that, as my colleague from ABB said, you are going to find a lot of MNCs having a lot of activities in India. I mean, India is going to be epicenter. I mean, I must say that. And so having said that, just to let you know, in General Electric, we have two large center of excellence for the research and development. One is where GE was born in New York City, New York area, upstate New York. And the second one is in Bangalore. That's it. There is no other center of excellence. We have consolidated. And so I'm more than happy to take any request and extend the similar offer that you heard from our colleague from ABB. We have a huge training center and so on. The other perspective that I would like to really share with you, other than going back to the history, and it's kind of related to my comment on the history, if you really look at, again, back to the energy sector, the whole, I would say, the key development started in the late 60s, I would say. And in this case, I mean, there are a couple of things to really note. The machines came first, and then the modeling happened, and then the simulation took place. It was not other way around. Now, Industry 4.0, as we were just noticing, we were presented that, oh, here is a digital car manufacturing taking place, and then the car is taking place. So I wouldn't say that one route is better than other. Don't get us stuck in one single thought. Of course, people are going to be doing digital simulation because there is a digital power. Is that the only way to invent Industry 4.0? Not necessarily. So that would be my other perspective. And the reason why I mentioned about going back to history, so basically machine came in 30s, 40s, 50s. Then late 60s, there was a power of mathematical modeling in the academics era. So for all of you from the academics, as you can see, that the whole concept of linear programming, the linear algebra, nonlinear control systems, and by the way, those are the fundamental science. And absolutely, I agree with some of the comment that made that we shouldn't be ignoring fundamental science. And I must say that India should really spend more stuff in fundamental science, because that will build the base. Because otherwise, what's happening is that you're really up at this tier, and you're missing the fundamental tier. And then, by the way, that is what has been happening in many of the advanced countries. It doesn't reflect, because what you see is what the end product is, but you don't see what the base is. So that's another perspective I would like to really share with you. And lastly, I would like to say that basically, when you're talking about this mathematical modeling and so on, I would say that the simulation has been the bridge between the mathematical modeling and fundamental science and the advanced manufacturing in various different sectors. And again, sector by sector, problems are very different, and there has been a lot of discussions on that, so I'm not going to get into the detail. But back to the energy sector, I must say the academic industry, the kind of VGT professor just showed what L&T has done, I would say that's really a simulation lab. And I must say that is definitely a great step. I really congratulate you in taking that initiative, and that should be one of the foundational cornerstone in some of your thought process, the way you are looking at. So I will stop at this. Otherwise, you will be kicking me out, as I'm the last person in between you and the end of the session. Thank you.
Yeah. So